We begin with a major shakeup in Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announcing today he is dissolving the government's war, which has been responsible for managing the war effort for more than 8 months. This comes as Israel's military says it will pause fighting along a route in southern Gaza for 11 hours a day to allow humanitarian aid in for the millions of desperate Palestinians. Netanyahu reportedly disagreeing with this tactical pause, calling it, quote, unacceptable. And the IDF says it struck Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon after Hezbollah launched a barrage of rockets at Israel on Friday. Joining us now, NBC's Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv. Raf, let's start with you. Why did the Israeli Prime Minister dissolve the war cabinet, and what does that actually mean?
Well, Jose, he dissolved the war cabinet primarily because those centrist opposition figures who joined his government a week after the October 7th attack in a show of national unity have now walked out of the government. They left with a pretty stinging rebuke of Prime Minister Netanyahu, accusing him of playing politics with the war, saying that he has no plan for the future of Gaza after Hamas. And so Prime Minister Netanyahu says, look, the war cabinet was created to accommodate these opposition figures joining the government on an emergency basis. And with them gone, there is no need for the war cabinet to exist anymore. We are expecting, Jose, that decision-making will be centralized going forward in Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli defense minister, who is a relative moderate. But it is interesting that he is not inviting those far-right members of his cabinet to join the war cabinet. Instead, he's keeping them on the outside. That may be a sort of pragmatic move. And those far-right ministers are deeply, deeply frustrated, saying they want a bigger role in managing the war going forward. Jose.
And Rafa, you have new reporting on this tactical pause in fighting to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza. What's been the response?
Well, Jose, it's been welcomed by aid groups who say that they need all the help they can get in terms of getting food to the people who need it inside of Gaza. The big issue has partly been the amount of food crossing over into Gaza each day, but also actually distributing it to the people who need it. And the idea of this pause is that there won't be fighting in the area around the critical Kerem Shalom crossing, which should make it easier for humanitarian organizations to actually reach that aid and then get it to hungry people in other parts of Gaza. There has been a furious reaction from the far right of the Israeli government, who thinks that there should be less aid going into Gaza, not more. And as you mentioned, Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he was unaware that this decision was being made. He says it is unacceptable, but an Israeli government official says that Israel's military operation will continue in other parts of Gaza, despite this tactical pause in the eastern region near Kerem Shalom. Jose.
Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv, thank you so very much. I want to bring in Keir Simmons, who is in Beirut today. Keir, it's always a pleasure to see you. The IDF spokesman said today that Hezbollah's increasing aggression is bringing us to a brink of a wider escalation. What exactly is the danger there?
Well, I think that statement was very impactful and designed to leave anyone watching in no doubt that Israel and the IDF intends to ensure safety for Israelis on its northern border, the border with Lebanon here, which, of course, has been targeted by Hezbollah in the past 9 months. Now, the Israelis, on the other hand, have been targeting Hezbollah, and they actually hit another Hezbollah operative just today, according to an IDF statement. The message is that Israel will not accept any kind of threat. It's difficult, though, when you watch those kinds of messages to figure out whether or not it is what the message is that Israel intends to take action in this part of the region, or whether, in fact, it's simply trying to say to Hezbollah, don't you dare. It's very difficult to see the difference between those two. The question that you asked, Jose, and is a good one, is, what will the implications be? Well, if there was a increasing war, there's already a simmering war between Hezbollah and the IDF. If there was an increasing war, that would risk dragging in groups here like Palestinians. There are many Syrians here in Lebanon. Potentially, you would then see an escalation with regional actors involved, countries like perhaps Syria, and of course, most worryingly for Washington, perhaps Iran. And that would then have the potential to drag the US in. And that isn't even talking about the kind of refugee crisis that would unfold if there was a real war, if you like, between Israel and forces here in Lebanon. There are millions of refugees here already. Potentially they would spill out into Europe. It would be a very serious crisis. And that is why you're seeing the presidential senior advisor on his way now in Israel, on his way here to Lebanon to try to diffuse tensions.
And Keir, I mean, it's important to kind of, if you would, to explain to us just the impact and the size and the influence of Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it is the dominant force here now, and of course, Hezbollah absolutely backed by the Iranians. Effectively, Hezbollah is a proxy force for the Iranians. I think it's also, though, worth making the point, Jose, that in the past 9 months, there have been many moments of escalating tension, and it hasn't boiled over into a full-scale war. Just as an example, in terms of the numbers, there have been 13 Hezbollah leaders killed, 341 Hezbollah fighters. Those numbers, compared with Gaza, for example, do seem quite low, don't they? And I think it's just worth keeping in mind that ostensibly Hezbollah and the Israelis have, and certainly the Americans and Western capitals, have been very clear that they don't want to see this turn into a full-scale war in this part of the region.
Keir Simmons in Beirut, thank you so very much. Really appreciate it, Keir. Joining us now, senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, Aaron David Miller. He spent decades at the State Department, where he helped develop U.S. policy on the Middle East and served as a senior advisor for Arab-Israeli negotiations. Aaron, it's always great seeing you. What do you think are the impacts of Netanyahu's decision to essentially dissolve this current war cabinet?
Bruce, thanks for having me, Jose. Look, if there's no war cabinet, then the two most extremist ministers in the government, Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, can't participate in the key decisions relating to the Israel-Hamas war. So the decision-making group is gotten smaller. Benny Gantz is no longer there. Gadi Eisenkot's no longer there. It's the prime minister. It's the minister of defense, Yoav Gallant, that has problems. Netanyahu fired him, as you remember, last year, and then was forced under pressure to take him back, and a couple of other non-voting members. So I think that's the main impact in terms of the Netanyahu's motives and the politics. The other reality is, I mean, I hate to use the expression across the aisle, but I think without Gantz and Eisenkot, there is no, again, broader support, at least among the political elites, for the Israel-Hamas war, or less support. It's harder for the prime minister to say, well, look, we've got members of the opposition, well-schooled and very experienced former minister of defense, two chiefs of staff who are basically agreeing with my policy. Now that's gone, and basically the decision-making is all on him.
Yeah, and Aaron, what was the message? And I'm just thinking of even, commander-in-chief responsibilities and rights when the Israeli military announces a tactical pause to get more aid into parts of Gaza. Netanyahu says it's unacceptable, didn't know about it. What's that about?
That's a kabuki game, Jose. I mean, akin perhaps to the fact that the proposal the president laid out in his May 31st speech and then is now ensconced in a UN Security Council resolution, which is rather remarkable that the Security Council actually voted for an Israeli proposal, 14 yeses and one abstention, the Russians. That never happened before. Security Council basically legitimizing an Israeli peace initiative. Those are Israeli ideas. The prime minister, for political reasons, seems to have walked away from them. It's the same thing with the humanitarian pause, the 11-hour humanitarian pause. This has been in the works for weeks, probably even before Rafah. He was well aware of the fact that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, basically we're considering this, and they announced it on Saturday. So again, it's a kabuki game designed to appease, if possible, as many constituencies as possible.
And Aaron, you have a new article in Foreign Policy magazine. I really, ask you to everybody to read it because it's an important one, titled "Why Biden's Gaza Gambit is Likely to Fail." You write that Netanyahu, Hamas leader Sinwar, and President Biden are all on separate clocks and on clocks that are out of sync. What do you mean by that?
I mean, again, and I empathize and sympathize with the administration. I think the object of what they're trying to do is exactly what they should be doing. But, it's like Woody Allen said, 80% of life is just showing up, but he's only partially right. 80% of success in life, certainly in negotiations, is showing up at the right time. And you got three different clocks. You got the Netanyahu clock and the Sinwar clock, which are more aligned. They see no reason, frankly, to scale down this war. Hamas thinks it's winning, and the prime minister can't win the war and he can't lose the war because, frankly, he must maintain himself in power. Otherwise, the court's on trial for bribery, fraud, breach of trust now for 3 years in a Jerusalem district court. If he's convicted, he's either going to jail or he's going to have to cut a plea agreement that will drive him from politics. The only party that's in a hurry for any number of reasons is the Biden administration. And time here is working in favor of Sinwar and Netanyahu. And I don't mean to equate them, but on this specific issue, time for them is an ally. For the president, for the administration, for the people of Gaza, for the hostages families, time is an enemy.